What up, everybody? In Raising Kanan Season 3, Episode 2, Unique and Rock had been hooking up for a minute, and at this point, Unique was feeding Rock some butter pecan ice cream when a group of men sent by Stefano Marchetti broke into Rock's house, abducting Rock and Unique and taking them to Stefano. It was at this point Stefano told Rock that she needed to take care of his problem in New Jersey, Sal Boselli. So Rock had Marvin do the hit and he killed Sal at his grandchild's baby christening. Soon after that, Unique stepped to Stefano and got put in contact with Quan for the Horse Connect. Then after Unique was assumed dead, Rock stepped to Stefano and wanted to continue what Unique had started. And now all these events are coming full circle in Raising Kanan Season 4. But one important detail from when Rock and Stefano had their conversation about taking out Sal. He took Rock over to a furnace and told her that that furnace has solved several of his problems. And he even threatened Rock that if she didn't agree to take out Sal, that her and Unique would have both went in that furnace that night. And ever since this conversation, the question has been, who will be the person who ends up going into this furnace? Because we know that it wasn't mentioned for no reason. So now that the events of this time are coming full circle, even the butter pecan ice cream that Unique was feeding Rock, he was eating after breaking into Rock's house and confronting her in episode 7. Because of that, I think we'll also see the furnace coming back into play, most likely by the end of this season. And if it doesn't happen by the end of season 4, I definitely think someone's going in that furnace by the end of this series. Unique's return has Rock and the Thomas family scrambling for answers, and now kind of has them at odds with Stefano, Snaps and Popper plotting behind their back, and Phil Russo and the New Jersey mob is gaining power by undermining Stefano. I think the most likely character to go in Stefano's furnace will be Stefano himself, because just like Stefano said that furnace has helped him solve a lot of problems, the furnace could ultimately also be his fate. Keep it in mind what Phil Russo told Unique. He said killing Stefano would be a death sentence for him, but if he just softened him up a little bit, his own people would do it for him. And Phil Russo told Unique that he has his ears to the streets and he's privy about what's going on. So if Russo said that there's got to be some kind of truth to it, and if you're gonna whack a boss, what better way to do it than to disappear him completely so nobody could really know what happened? And if they do disappear him, for all anybody else would know, Stefano might have left town and went on the run or something like that if there's nobody to be found. Something else to keep in mind is that we haven't seen the other bosses from the 5 families. And I know the main reason that Stefano's part of the storyline is because he's the boss out of Queensboro. But Stefano did tell Rock in episode 7 that the rest of the 5 families were backing him. So this makes me to question, will we ever see any of the other bosses from the 5 families introduced into the storyline? Also keep in mind, during this time, Tony Teresi was active in the Italian Mafia with the Queen's crew, and he was a capo and the leader of the hit squad. And since Russo said that Stefano's own people could be the ones to take him out, I wonder if we'll see Tony Teresi possibly be involved in Stefano's murder before he goes to prison. Because right now, the only person from Stefano's crew that we've really been introduced to is his bodyguard Giorgio. We've never seen any of his capos or anything like that from Stefano's crew, and we know that Teresi was one of his capos. The next person I think that's most likely to go in Stefano's furnace is Phil Russo. Because keep in mind in Season 3, Stefano put the hit out on Sal for very little reason at all. Sal wasn't even thinking about opposing Stefano in any type of way, and even showed respect to Stefano before attacking Rock's operation at the end of Season 2 because it was going down on Stefano's territory. And unlike Sal, Phil Russo is purposely rising up against Stefano by supporting Unique and coming up with a plan to soften Stefano up so his own people could take him out. So if Phil Russo's plan doesn't work and Stefano's own people don't take him out, then Phil Russo will likely be the one to get taken off the board. And like I said at the beginning of the video, Stefano said his furnaces helped him out with many of his problems. Phil Russo could be the next problem that the furnace helps Stefano solve. Stefano might get permission from the rest of the 5 families to take out Russo for purposely messing with his business. Or he might try to do it secretly, like how he took out Sal by keeping his hands clean. But like I said about taking out Stefano and leaving no evidence about who was behind it, they could potentially do the same thing to Phil Russo, so nobody would have a definite answer about what happened to him. And I can also see Stefano wanting to make an example out of Phil Russo for coming up against him, unlike Sal, who he just wanted to get rid of. But like Stefano told Rock and Marvin, for right now, this is a proxy war between Stefano and Phil Russo, meaning they let the little guys fight the battles, talking about Unique, Marvin, and Rock. But now in episode 7, we saw somebody else get involved, and that's Snaps and Pop Henry. After hearing Unique was still alive from Rock at the end of episode 7, we saw them meeting up with Unique and most likely forming an alliance with him and siding with Unique over Rock. It's like Snaps and Pop said in season 3. They were Switzerland until they're not, meaning they were neutral until they decided to get involved to sway the balance of power. But I think as soon as they decide not to be Switzerland anymore, that could be their downfall. And siding with Unique in this war is also putting them in direct conflict with Stefano. Because of that, Snaps and Pop might be the next in line to go. Because if Stefano isn't able to make an example out of Phil Russo, he might go after Snaps and Pops next. And when talking about Snaps and Pop, they would both have to go in Stefano's furnace. Because if someone took out one of them and not the other, whoever survived would be a major problem moving forward. If Snaps and Pop are the ones who end up going in Stefano's furnace, Rock and Marvin likely will play some type of role in this because the fact that siding with Unique is double-crossing them also. And also because they're trying to influence Kanan to try to turn him against Rock, doing things to undermine Rock like introducing Kanan to Quan. And the characters I think that are least likely to go in the furnace, but there's still a possibility, is Rock, Marvin, or Unique. And just because I said Unique, don't go in my comment section saying I'm backpedaling about him being Breeze, because I'm completely convinced Unique is Breeze. But unlike the people who say there's no way Unique is Breeze, or Unique just can't be Breeze, I'm not so close-minded where I can't consider other possibilities. And if Unique wasn't Breeze, I could see him going in the furnace to make sure he was dead for good this time. Concerning Marvin, he can go in the furnace if things go wrong between him, Rock, and Stefano, especially because he was doing side jobs for Stefano, and that could play a part in that. And concerning Rock going in the furnace, we have to keep in mind she was who Stefano told about the furnace in the first place. So it could come full circle where she ends up going in the furnace. But I also think Unique, Rock, and Marvin will all be in season 5. So if one of them is who goes in the furnace, then it probably won't happen until next season. And there you have it. Do you think someone's going to go in Stefano's furnace? And if you do, who do you think it will be? Let me know in the comments, as well as your thoughts, theories, and predictions.